Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Vincent Community Board meeting for Tuesday, 21st of November, 2023. This morning, I do not have any apologies because Guy Johns is joining us online. Not yet, but yeah. Not yet. Okay, we anticipate Guy to be joining online. Can you just let me know that he's not, because he will be an apology if he doesn't quite get here. And we have no speakers for the public forum today. Shame. Proclamation of minutes of the meeting from Tuesday, 17th of October. Has everybody had an opportunity to read through those? I'm happy to move that they are accurate. Tony's happy to see that. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Declarations of interest. Sarah, can you just change mine? The Central Table Queenstown Trails Depot Trust. And that's that is now Southern Lakes Trails. Any other?
Yeah, I've got to drop a couple off mine. I don't want to be a manager at Cycling South and I don't want to chair at Central Table Officer. So.
Can you please more living options from spouse to the
Thank you.
I have one too. In the spouse side of things, the NCG Men Here Care Cabinet Group. Andrew's now, I think he's a co-chair within the recent co-chair.
Right, so we now move to item 23.8.2, the Voluntary Park Sports Field Development Assessments. Welcome, Paul and Murray.
We're doing this piece of work to you today, just for information. As you would have seen through reading the report, there's some other things happening outside of out of this work that will influence what you might decide in the future to do with sport provision and demand and supply on Molyneux Park. So really the purpose of this report, the assessment, was to determine if the treed area of Molyneux Park to the north or northwest is required to be developed in the next 3 years. And the process was to look at national trends in sport and recreation, to look at population and demographic data, to assess sports field use as it currently stands, to analyse that use and including field availability, and to interview park users and occupiers. And this is a model that's used across the country to deliver on questions such as the one that we're looking to answer today. So overall, from a national point of view, recreational interests are changing. That's not front page news. That's fact. People are looking for less formal, less structured, more casual activities and for non-traditional sports. For example, we've all seen a massive increase in cycling across the country. We've heard and seen, particularly the seniors age group, looking for fitness equipment in their part of the country. New sports are coming into our orbit, such as futsal and pickleball, and when they come into the country, they tend to take off quite quickly, and that puts pressure on the space and the facilities that are sitting there based on a traditional model for sport and recreation. Disc golf is another activity that's changed its position as a popular activity, and as a result, fundamentally, sport and recreation facilities across the country need to be adaptable, they need to be accessible, completely suitable and able to be turned around quite quickly. So that's from a national scene. Looking at Molyneux Park in particular, there have been some issues that have been pulled out of the conversations that our consultants, GLG, had with users and occupiers. Season creep, cricket, rugby, it's not unusual in our nation, but in Molyneux Park, the pressure on the main oval is quite significant, and the expectations of that oval is also quite significant. And at this time, we had Otago Cricket. We're looking for that venue to continue to be a cricket-specific venue, and that has that has some challenges and requires investment. And so far, our council has been investing in that sort of expectation. So the cricket block got renewed 2 years ago, that kind of thing. The maintenance specification is one up on other sports fields and other passive recreation spaces. That's the kind of investment I'm referring to. And at the same time, you have rugby expecting to be able to use that main oval for their priorities and in their season, and that season starts to blend those two competing interests. The use of Dunstan High School facilities is pressuring the school in terms of how they get to use their facilities, and they've just drawn our attention to it. It's not a complaint to be taken out of this process, but it definitely is a challenge for them and effectively us. There's lots of feedback on the quality and accessibility of facilities, for example, the indoor venue, public toilets and changing rooms. That's come across a number of participants in the interview process. The football field capacity and provision is another issue which is indicated in the research document, is driven by their competition model, where all the code comes together in one venue and circulates around the district. And when they come to Alexandra, that has seen them move their senior competition onto Pioneer Park. So that's a model-driven issue. Hockey, I'm going to say too much about hockey because you're in waiting for some information on that code and their requirements and ideas for Alexandra Station at Pioneer Park. The suitability of the indoor facility on the new stadium was raised as an issue, and I've mentioned that, and how that might get addressed in the future is, we understand, is to be subject to a feasibility study that the property team are going to lead. That clearly has an impact on Molyneux Park as a recreation space, and this report just indicates the issues and the feedback that users have given us rather than deliver solutions and try and trump that feasibility work, because that's a completely different piece of work. The bowling club have indicated that their growth pattern has changed and they're actually looking potentially for more space in the future rather, and I think that probably needs further analysis. What we find typically in sport is people think that when they can't get onto the park at 3 in the afternoon that we need more fields. When we look at the model and how the competition is run, change it up a little bit, run things during the week, so just at the weekend, or have things in the evening or during the day, and clearly there are always challenges around delivering on that aspiration. Then we might find that we're actually oversupplying in space. I'm not suggesting that for the bowling group particularly, but it is something that needs further analysis in the future. Overall, at this current point in time, the belief is that the facilities are perfectly adequate in terms of sport demand at this current point in time, and at some point that will change. But right now, in terms of that, what do we need to do in the next 3 years? We don't need to be providing sports fields. That's what we're saying to you. But just reflecting on those key pressure points, the football program and how it operates here, cricket versus rugby and the demand for the oval will be number one. The comments on the indoor facility and the pressure on Dunstan High School. In terms of what next, so we've got the stadium feasibility piece of work to be completed or carried out. The hockey business case and associated work is to come back to you. The current Molyneux Reserve Management Plan talks about an MOU between Council and Dunstan High School to formalise that. Currently, informal access to the school facilities, that might be something that would be worth considering, just to deal with the potential for that current use to be pushed back on and how that might be handled, because that would have an implication on Molyneux Park, so a ripple effect back onto the site. And we do need to feed back these study findings back to the users. They've been waiting patiently since about February when they were interviewed or participated. So we need to feed this information back to them. And once again, it's just for information, and it should not be met with anything other than satisfaction that we have recorded their feedback accurately and interpreted it accurately. The draft 2024 long-term plan at this point, and I know it's draft, but we're indicating that funding to support some casual or passive activities in the Shrewd area, some cycling trail, for example, would be of benefit to the community around that casual, informal demand for activities. To complete the Molyneux Park development plan, using this information, the hockey work and the indoor facility stadium work. And then you have a complete picture and you know what you need to be doing, possibly for the 3 years beyond, so 2027 and beyond. So wrapping it up, we don't need more sports field, but we're suggesting that there's an opportunity to create some other activities in that park for the short term.
Did you want
No, I think that, I think just, Alexander was slightly different to Cromwell, where we did a similar study and they've got growth, in their sports area, so they were looking for new, areas to put some sports grounds in over the next 5 to 10 years, so, Alexander's not quite there yet, but it will be, so we're spending the next 3 years, as Murray said, to plan that with the board to know where we're heading and then know what investment might be required going forward under that. So yeah, any questions?
Thank you. Thanks, James.
Yeah.
Right.
Excellent, report. I think the weakness in an existing factor is the relationship between our facilities and Dunstan High School. So I think moving to an MOU is something that's really, really important.
We learned from what Dunstan High School, how they're managing, I guess, the change, because they're at the sharp end of it, compared to probably us, and then the vulnerable group of where people fall away from organised sport, aren't they? What do they do?
Are you referring to facilities or the types of activities?
They both, like, yeah, because, yeah, are they providing facilities or they're just doing freelance activities?
They provide the venue. So, and the fact that the venue is new and it meets their needs, then I think that's something that draws people into the venue, right over and above Molyneux Stadium. And gymnastics were an example where they indicated it took them some time. They indicated 2 hours, but it's to set up and for the people to come in and use it and then to pack down. That's also not an uncommon comment from indoor facility operators. When you're providing multidisciplinary kind of spaces, that's how they kind of have to roll. But I think that's probably something that the school venue has over Molyneux Stadium. It's newer, it's perhaps lighter, the changing room's not bigger or nicer, and that kind of, that's based on the feedback that we've got. The school aren't running those programs. They're just simply providing the venue, that's my understanding, for basketball, for volleyball, for those kinds of things. Yeah. Whether that model or the expectation and that behaviour kind of changes in the future, if say Molyneux Stadium was repositioned and was a completely different beast, I think that would come down to how council decides it, or the board decided how it be operated and the capacity that venue would have for things. You're always going to have basketball pressure, but typically the way that the program is run affects whether or not the capacity is actually an issue. You can have one court fully used throughout the week, meets everyone's needs. At this point in time, it might be just Friday night, and it goes from 3:30 till 9:30. In Tauranga, we have them going right through till 11 p.m. Spread that out through the week, everybody's happier. No one's that happy, and hockey's really similar. No one's that happy for their 9-year-old to be out at 9:30 playing hockey. Yeah, so there's things that can be done. Sorry, long answer to your question, but there are things that can be done to moderate that use and therefore the experience.
Yeah, potentially work with the codes, because building another asset and the maintenance of another asset is really expensive when, if the current asset can be, I guess, used more frequently, get a bit of bang for your buck out of that.
And the comments, they don't want structure necessarily.
No.
And we mentioned top bike, so there's about 300 and something kids come once a year for top bike schools from Cromwell, Roxburgh, Dorman, 30 times in the forest. And only 2/3 is probably in the car park in the grass field. And that's probably what kids are looking for, isn't that?
Jason?
Yeah, just, I guess, I understand that the area that they, looked at was Alexandra, but I wonder where our two rural towns that have got a bit, with Colburn and especially the schools, Colburn and Oakdale, fit into that, because they are essentially part of Alex. And a lot of facilities are used by people from that area. So I thought, I was interested to see there was no mention of those. I found some of that report a little bit contradictory, which is just what we were saying. People want to be able to do their things and access the use of the facilities, but they don't want to spend time putting things in and putting things away. And we all know that funding now you do not get funding for anything without being multi-purpose. That's just full stop. So we can't always, I think there has, like you say, there has to be a reality to some of the, so I was glad to hear there might be some redesigning of timing. Is Di online by any chance?
No, he hasn't joined yet.
Okay, I just had a question in relation to that. Where is another one? Sorry, I'll just find them. So, and this is just in relation to the comment that Sports Central identified that an updated stadium would be ideal. We hear of sports clubs and activities that want to use the stadium and can't. Do you have a list of who those people, groups, clubs are, and what can we do to help them?
So,
I don't know, it's not in the report.
no, we can, that'll all fall out of this
Yes.
stadium strategy that's coming.
Yeah. Because it would be, I mean, they might not need the stadium, but they might need something else that we can help with, another building or something.
Yeah.
Because I would hate to think that groups feel like they're not being heard because they're not maybe the bigger groups. So there was just one of the things there. And I guess the other thing, like you just said, Tori, is my big question was in relation to with my roading kind of thinking on is there was problems about coming off Dunstan Road and I'm wondering if there's some runs on the board we can get to help facilitate some making it better for people access from there.
We have been working through with that,
Yeah.
the rail trail access with Doc.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine it's
Got
complicated.
haven't got too far.
Okay. Or just if it's a complaint and it might be something that we can address quicker than the giant buildings situation. So to help.
Well, I think the other thing on giant buildings, I think if you, the old Mitre 10 in Wanaka that the council is leasing from for owners, a great facility to look at indoor space. I've got New Zealand's got their own space there. And they've got 2 courts and they've got some rooms and some other things, but I mean, that's a way of repurposing the building. There's an old park, it's not on a park, it's just in a, an old Mitre 10 and
Yeah.
it's just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that's, getting that hub as well, which we're probably keen, Molyneux Park is essentially whole district sporting hub.
Oh, I agree.
So we need to sort of focus on keeping that like that if we can as we go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
Jacob?
I was going to ask, I said that you've used the skill roles as part of population and demographics. Where else did you get the information from?
Statistics New Zealand, and also used our population data that we had available from Hendrix.
Yeah.
I understand through Sarah that data was updated in December 22. Our consultants were using the data that was current before that, and this hasn't been moderated to take that into account. I think when that feasibility / Molyneux Park development plan comes together, that's the opportunity to make adjustments. But I have to say that our national data is not indicating anything dramatically different to our our local data and based on our demographic profile. So there's an aging population and a fall off for what is typically the two age groups that use sports fields, 5 to 19 and 20 to 49. And that's also a national trend, and that's showing up in our data here. But once again, moderated through those next two processes, and that will make it should make it all the same.
So I was just going to say that that's not quite matching what we're seeing coming through the pre-stores at the moment. So I've spoken to 3 pre-stores now. They're all saying it's the complete opposite for them. And so I did check to make sure it wasn't a staffing issue that was causing wait lists.
Yeah.
And saying no, it's population growth. It's the same with, for example, the Terra School. You know, we're now working with the Ministry to build new classrooms because of population growth. So it's just not quite matching up with what we're seeing there.
Right.
Our schools nearly tripled since the time my kids were in class.
So the MOE data, I think, was towards the end of 2021.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it has, but is it possible, I'm just asking a question back, is it possible that that data that we picked up for MOE at the end of 21 in 23, which is what you're referring to now, I think, could have changed that much? Like,
Yeah.
there's a conversation, there's a piece in there that indicates that a sport club might have between 120 and 150 participants. That's depending on what the code is. I mean, that could be 3 or 4 teams, and that has massive influence on how much space is required. Yeah, so you think it's entirely possible?
Yeah,
So you,
what we're saying is like, yes, the role sizes in primary schools are dropping right now, but we're also anticipating quite a big bump from all those lockdown babies coming in. Not that it's a bad thing, I've got one myself, but we're definitely starting to see that coming through the 3 schools now. Like when you've got 3 schools with 6 to 12 month wait lists, yeah, staffing and increasing in those places. One I spoke to this morning said that if they could get started open the second one. Wow. So there's definitely a population coming through now. Which is a good
I think it would be good to be able to tie in. I think over the last 10 years, we've had a lot of discrepancy between population forecasts that we've had and then actually eventuated. So if we can get something that we can have a bit of certainty in the next part of the study.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, sort of, you know, given the plan over the next 3 years, you know, there has been some change, and this is a really good starting point to understand what activities that are coming in, what are the trends and what are the waves. And I think, you know, as staff, for us to really understand what different codes and sports need, as well as the other pressures that are coming, you know, through council as well, is to be able to deliver a good plan that we can build out over the next 3 years. So, yeah.
We'll get the census figures next year for this year, which isn't just taken from what's posted out and sent in, because that's a wee bit flexible, but it does take into account roles, GPs, administrative data it's called, and so that'll give a really clear indication. But I note here, Central Otago District with Infometrics projection last year was 24,917, and the estimate now came out just a couple of weeks ago is 26,000, so it's an extra 1,000. So it's a really inexact science, but I appreciate that you've done absolutely everything you could in that time frame, and maybe the target's moved a bit, and it'll come up. And the census will be a really good basis.
I've got a couple of questions that everybody else has seen too, because the invitation was turned on. The stuff around the cricket, first class cricket and that wicket, and how much we spend on maintaining a first class wicket for one game, 2 games. Keep going. What's the cost versus reward aspect to that cricket wicket?
Oh, off the top of my head, the cost, I'm only behind. I think the single 30 odd K, I think we spend up there, I think, remember.
Yeah.
And there's 6 games this year.
And 6
I
this year.
think there's 6 first class games this year. And I guess that also depends how many people go and look at those. You know, there's some right over the summer Christmas period, so some so that hopefully people come here to go to that and spend money elsewhere in the community, or, you know, stay while they're here. So, yeah,
It's a great venue when they get a good day up there. for
Yeah.
cricket, it is.
and there's a preferred one over in Queenstown for cricketers to come to. The population just needs to sort of come and support it somehow.
Yeah, I've heard we've had up to 5,000. So yeah, it's also, yeah,
Yeah, a few years ago, there were two numbers.
yeah,
It just, the thing improvement, and then I see unofficially, ironically, it's come from the rugby club, that Otago cricketers prefer the number 2 oval as opposed to.
For training,
For
yeah.
training, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. They do
And-
warm up.
It'd be good to get some figures on the cost versus the economic benefits of this, okay, in terms of the season creep.
might be after the season that we, that sort of 6 or 8 months down the road.
Yeah,
Right.
not priority, it'd just be good to be weighing up
Yeah,
what the community gets from the money that's spent.
Yeah.
On that.
I think you're right, Dave. This will be a good season because the restrictions of the previous sponsor of cricket in New Zealand have relaxed a lot. It's a lot cheaper to run that, and it's also, it might be sort of added, I think it's going to be free to ear as well.
Mm.
So that makes a difference to people turning up at the gate, I'm not sure.
I saw the toilets, when the netball pavilion is shut as an issue for football, which it'd be good to see something on that, but it's
So-
great that those ones at by the stadium have been refurbed because they were.
Yeah, new ones have just gone in behind the scoreboard, so they're straight on the fence, so
Great,
the whole idea is that
so they will.
get access.
be-
Yeah.
So can you access them now? That fence has been.
So it's like the ones over by the stadium tavern, they're sort of divided by gates.
You can still access when the field's shut.
Yeah, we'll check out the property, but that's the whole idea of it.
Great. The ECA report from 10 to 12 years ago, I think that it would be relatively irrelevant now.
Yes, and a lot of that focused around the old ice and line and the ice rink going next to the pool and places like that, which clearly didn't happen at the time for a lot of reasons. And some of the stuff in that report has actually happened as well, so, but yeah, I think the whole thing will now rest around where the stadium is at with its feasibility or building structure issues or whatever it's got, or whatever determined out of that.
What part of the stadium's owned by Marina Shares?
Again, they just.
That's what it said
That's in the report.
in the report. Ownership is mixed. Rugby own the club rooms, council are changing, gym sports and storage area, Merino share is another part.
Is that just their infrastructure that's going to have
Like it
that's
is.
common, because there's quite a big deal there.
We can check that.
Storage, so.
To my knowledge, it's only storage facilities. There's stuff there, but they don't own any part of the building.
Storage sheds.
And then hopefully our feasibility study as well will come those discussions with MOE, Dunstan High School, and Julia Terrace about what a multi-use community facility might look like. And there are a couple of good examples around the country that share the ownership, share the responsibility, share the cost of building it. It'd be really good to see some of those options come through in the feasibility study. I think there's one,
Yeah.
the Peak in Hamilton, that's on the school grounds, but owned and run by council.
Yeah.
Which looks great. Good luck on that.
I guess, and I don't know about Gordy's time, but it always comes down to how the MOE see the schools can be willing. Yeah. But we can feed it back to property who can run that process around.
Dunstan's fairly willing on the grounds there, but yeah.
The floodlight areas and lack of 4 different trainings. Is there a potential to utilise floodlights in one particular area for multiple codes? Such as rugby and football, who both need lights but not lighting 2 fields.
So the lights are traditionally owned by the clubs and installed, and I guess to do that those two sports are winter sports, so it's really sharing the ground. So it doesn't bulk out so much, so
It'd
potentially,
be good to see some working together across codes and across areas to, like Mary says, not have everything all happening on one night and then it's that capacity. And then the only other thing I had a comment about was the bit with the motorhome caravan association car park that is, and the fact that it doesn't look that flash for driving into Molyneux Park, but I think there are reasons that are pertinent to them being there, especially around some of the comments about behaviour management and socialisation and things close to the kids' park. Could there be a potential in the next steps to just kind of pretty it up a bit, to have a put a spore and hedge around it, or something that's low that makes it look a bit nicer than a gravel car park without costing an arm and a leg?
Because the caravans aren't that ugly.
The caravans are.
Just needs to lift them on.
Yeah.
People.
so potentially, but I think we should step back to the overall plan of the park going forward. So whether that actually stays there or not is also a question that's raised in the reserve management plan for that. Technically, it's not, for a sports park, it's not a key activity, camping. But we need to look at where that fits, whether that space might be used for something else going forward. That's more relatable to sport and recreation rather than camping. So all that will come out in the mix.
Camping is 100% recreation.
Yeah.
I think there are reasons to keep it, and I'd like to see that.
Well, I'm not saying that we are, but I think let's go through the process and see, and then when that happens, if it stays in that spot, we should really better.
Right. Cool. Any other questions? Michael, thank you very much for that comprehensive report. I know that there are some people who are looking forward to that, especially the multi-use turf people who I understand we're also waiting on their business case around ownership funding and that sort of thing. So that tie in terms of timeframes to the next steps for this. Or is that in there?
It should do, from our end, it should do, how they're progressing at their end. We're not sure.
Yeah.
But we're indicating within the next 3 years, all these pieces of work will come together with the development plan, to facilitate some decisions on development versus investment or both.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that, I hope to get those few things back from them to tie into everything else that we're doing, so, from, they presented that to this board maybe 2 meetings ago, so I guess the ball's in there, caught there,
No problem. Wonderful. Can I have someone receive the report, please? Thank you, James. Thank you, Tracy. All those in favour? Against? Gary, thank you very much. Right, what I might do is just step back to apologies, Sarah, given that Di hasn't, because he did put in an apology if he were not to make it. So I'll move that we accept an apology from Di for the meeting. Tracy can second that. Thank you very much. All those in favour? Right, moving to page 40, Vincent financial report for the period ending 30th of September. Button, Donna, anything to say? No.
So take the paper as being read. So the financial report for the 30th of September, the favourable operating variance of $1 million, with revenue having a favourable variance of 1.8 million. This has been driven mainly due to the Dunstan Park land sales from Stage 3. There were 5 sections that remained to be sold in this financial year, and they are now all being sold. There is also a favourable variance in the grants and subsidies of 376,000. We had some funding received for the Alexandra River Park, the Alexandra Pool Liner replacement, and the Alexandra Community Centre, which was all carried forward from the previous financial year. So the grant funding lies with the project spend, but it's certainly stored until we spend all of the funding with that. Internal interest revenue is favourable at $77,000. So an increase in the reserves balance due to the Dunstan Park land sales, along with market increases to the market interest rates, are assisting with this increase on the surplus reserve balances. So operating expenditure has an unfavourable variance of $850,000. This variance is driven by the cost of the land sales with the development from stage 3 Dunstan Park. My understanding is that there are still some expenses to come in, which might show as a overall unfavourable variance, but once all costs come in, I'll give you guys a breakdown of what the total income and the total expenditure of the development is. So you can understand that we are still in surplus. The rates expense has an unfavourable variance of $64,000. This is due to the timing of the Central Otago District Council property annual rates for 2023-2024 being paid in July. So last year we did attempt for the annual plan to move the budget into July for this expense because it always happens in July. Unfortunately, we had a few technical glitches, so it's split over 12 months. And we'll try and fix that when we do our carry forwards and forecasts coming up. The unfortunate thing is, however, that the annual rates expense is higher than the annual budget of the rates expense. So this will carry forward for the rest of the year, and the variance will increase with the Otago Regional Council rates when they are paid in October. I will assess this for the annual plan just to make sure that we've aligned to the report. The capital expenditure has a unfavourable variance of $87,000. So far we have spent 27% of the total annual budget. At the moment we are working through the carry forward of the capital projects from the last financial year. So it's looking a little bit hit and miss. So we're still continuing with projects that started last financial year into this financial year, and then we're starting to actually start the design and work programs for the new projects for this financial year. So when we get round to the December financial report, hopefully we will have those revised forecasts in the budgets for you, so you can see where everything's sitting for the financial year. So Parks and Reserves has an unfavourable variance of $555,000. This is mainly due to the ice and line roof grant of $400,000 that was paid out in July. And that's just a budget timing as well. And then we also have the Alexandra Pool Liner replacement project underway, which has been funded through the Better Off funding. Property has a favourable variance of $468,000. The projects being currently worked on include the Alexandra Memorial Theatre, the Clyde Community Centre, the Molyneux Stadium has started some earthquakes, strengthening assessments, and they're all on different stages of work programs. So the Vincent Board Reserves funds finished the last financial year with a $7.6 million surplus. Once the carry forward budgets have been confirmed, the reserve table will be updated to include the annual plan expenditure along with the carry forward movements, which will give you a better understanding of the reserve balance will finish for the financial year. Are there any questions?
Just for clarification, page 42, thank you, Tona, the Alexandra Pool has an unfavourable variance of $600K, and it immediately says the ice and line roof grant of $400K has been paid out. But the ice and line roof grant isn't part of that $600K for the Alex Pool, is it?
Yes, so it's been, the budget's been split over 12 months.
But why is it
So
for a
it's
roof like the
included-
ice rink?
because that's where the expenditure is coming out of, through the Molyneux Pool, and the same as the previous expenditure.
Because the heating system,
Yeah, I said historically.
it's the savings.
So the problem is that we're going to have to be looking really closely at our expenditure in the LTP, and Paul's is something we're going to be looking at, and if the cost of a roof on a neighbouring facility isn't shown quite plainly when making those decisions, that could skew our thinking. Because when those later conversations are held, we need to be reminded, particularly at the council level, that a roof on a building 200 metres away is the cost of it.
Yes. So the roof on the building comes through as an internal loan, so it all comes through in the council report, the internal loan structure. So you'll see that coming through there as it's being funded out of the Vincent General Board.
So when it comes to a loan structure, it will say Austin line roof, not out on the book. Cool, that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just on the reserve side of things, the 37 Target Street and then 39 to 43 Target Street, there's no financial information there for them, but are they specific to something? I'm just thinking.
Oh, so those are the investment properties down the main street, so we're QB and
Okay.
I think this will be shop down at the bottom.
Yeah. Okay.
So that just means that there was no,
Could we put something in beside that in brackets, just write commercial or something? Just so that we know what we're talking about, what it is. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments on that? Thank you. And then so we'll have to move that Martin will move the report as received. And Roger will second that, all those in favour? Yes. Thank you very much. Now move to item 23.8.5. And that is Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I attended the Remembrance Day. It used to be Armistice Day, but it's now Remembrance Day at Weaver Close in Montague Estate. It was excellent to be there. And the reason it was moved from the traditional monument up there is that this was the Weaver Close and three others were the first of our poppy places where the council, on request from the RSA, put poppies on the fingerboards for those streets that were named after return of service people. What's going to happen from there is that there'll be QR codes put on the actual lamppost and you can scan it as you're walking around with your kids and your mock-burner and actually get the stories of these people, which I think is just an absolutely magnificent initiative. However, this has been really tarnished because since the 11th of November through to now, just in the last couple of days, someone's stolen the Total Court sign, which is one of the popping place signs. And curiously, when I was up at the service, one of the neighbours said, "Do you know why the Total Court sign keeps getting taken?" So this isn't the first time from what I can get, not that we're casting aspersions. But the table's up there, it has to be asked. It's the other side. But realistically, look, these signs are a memorial, and my imagination would be somebody perhaps walking home from the pub or a party or a Christmas do's gone, here's a good idea, and they've woken up on Sunday morning and gone, that was a bloody stupid idea. So they would be strongly encouraged to perhaps just sometime this week at 2 a.m, pop the sign back next to the post and we'll put it back out. Because realistically, I mean, you can make light of it, but these are memorials to family members of families who still live in the region, although it may be another part of the family. They're important, you know, and the fact we've got the poppies on them and we'll be putting the poppies on around the district, I think is a tribute to those people. And whoever took that sign needs to have a very strong second thought about the wisdom of doing so in the appropriate place. It's never appropriate to take a road sign. Alongside staff, we're not going alongside them, putting together the draft budgets for first consideration for next year's LTP. And all the mayors will talk about the number in quotation marks. You're saying to us now, what's your number? And that's where average anticipated residential rates rise. And at the time of writing, I thought I might have it by today, but we don't. But it's going to be above 20% at this stage, well above 20%, I would imagine. And there's factors in that, and it's mostly, if not all, things that we can't do anything about. There's general inflation, but that's actually, in our case, made worse by build inflation. So, you know, if you're looking at renovating your house or building a new one, you'll know it's not 6% more expensive than it was a year ago. And we build a lot of stuff. We now have a lot of new kit in our depreciation and insurance list, such as like Dunstan Water Supply, which hasn't opened on Saturday too, between 10 and 12, we're closed Tuesday. But we've got that as well, that we've got to ensure, we've got to depreciate. Now, we should depreciate, and we do. We've now retained our legally, we haven't retained our 3 waters, but we know fine damn well that we will be retaining our 3 waters, and we don't have the number for that, but fair to say that that's going to be north of 10% in its own. So council's already made a decision that we will be progressing, depending on Waka Kotahi funding, with our bridge strategy, which is going to be 3% year on year for 5 years on its own. So by the time you count build inflation, 3 waters and bridges, there's thick end of 20%. You add on to that phenomenal increases in our insurance, which we're all suffering from, extortionate and compulsory audit fees, and everything else. And the situation in the outlook is bleak. And not for a moment do I underestimate the effect of significant rates rises on people who are already struggling, businesses that are already struggling, farms that are already struggling. So we've got a real balance to find, mostly at a council level. I'm not in favour of making tomorrow pay for today by hiding things like not funding depreciation and so forth. I often ask councils who go out at lower than the rate of inflation, what is it they're hiding to do that? We also don't want to throw out good investments for short-term gains. We're going to need to look at asset sales and how any proceeds are applied. And we're going to have to look at governance restructure to increase efficiency potentially. And we're going to look at other means of income, as our new chair of audit and risk said at a meeting Tamer and I were at recently in Wellington. You don't have a rates problem, you have another revenue problem. And that was to all councils. But it's no surprise at the moment that we're seeing big councils saying, well, we're going to sell our airports, you know, although they provide revenue when there isn't a pandemic. So really a very, very tough road ahead. We got a lot of work to do between now and when we go out to the community with the LTP drafts, which will be better, March.
Yes, we should, yes, March, April conversation.
Yeah. And before we make those final decisions before the 1st of July. Added to this is the increased complexity that by law at the moment, we have to do a budget for our LTP that have us losing 30% of our business, being the 3 waters, on the 1st of October 2025, when we know that we won't. So I think at this stage it's highly likely that we will be doing another LTP in 2025, because in the 2024 LTP, we've got a whole lot of nonsensical budgets in the 3 water space with alignment, and they're saying everything above is going to change. And the sooner the new government gets formed and tells us what's happening, the better. So really, for the elected members and for the community, next year is going to be a toughie. It really is. Some tough decisions, and I think no matter what tough decisions we make, it's going to be tough outcomes. Not a lot of fun. On positive notes though, I attended and spoke at the opening of the Monte Cristo winery at Springvale. I encourage everyone to get along. I think they're opening maybe the weekend after next officially. This is just fantastic. This is the first winery in the South Island. Goes way back to Jean-Claude Feraud, the first winemaker in this region, and the main building encompasses some of the original buildings. So historically, this is really significant. But not just that. The family that have taken this over, the Paris family, have made a significant investment with a great deal of taste. Isn't it great when money and taste come together? It's just wonderful. Great sympathy to the history and to the sense of place that is Central Otago, and full credit to them. Infrastructure such as this in an area such as Springvale Clyde is just fantastic, because it increases our tourism stickability. And stickability means instead of people in Queenstown going, oh, we'll go over to Central Otago for a day trip today, they go, actually, by the time we bike from Cromwell to Clyde and then we go to Monte Cristo, or we go to somewhere else, and what you're saying then, but gee, we better stay a night. And you don't actually have more people here. you just have them spending 4 or 5 times as much because they're buying dinner and a bed for the night. So this is going to be significant, I think, for our tourism offering in the Vincent area. Quite a bit of time has been spent, I've spent, as has Tamer, well, I'm part of the advisory board and as well as National Council for the future by local government review. You'll recall that there was the future for local government review came out earlier this year. That panel is now done and dusted and it's been replaced by the future by local government panel advisory group and work that we're doing at the moment. The reason it's by local government is if we don't do it, 2 things will happen. One, that report will go on a shelf and get dusty, and 2, some form of reform will be made to us. Wellington will go, nah, this isn't working, the system's broken. Everybody in local government agrees the system's broken. The trick is how to fix it. So our local government is leading that. And as I say, Chair Tamer and I have attended 2 meetings in Wellington. That's endeavoured to take the 17 recommendations from the original panel to the new government with consensus support from the sector. Tamer, I'm sure, will talk more about that in her report, but I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Chair, for the hard work she's done in helping the whole local government sector move forward. It's been great having you there, Tamer. Thank you very much. Also been quite a bit of preliminary work done on next year's representation review. So for new members, a representation review happens mandated every 6 years. You've got to have a look at your governance structure every 6 years and go, is this working? Can we do it better? You can do it more frequently than that if you want. I haven't heard of anybody doing so. Although that's not to say it hasn't happened. I don't believe we've done it outside of the normal timeframe. So it's a review of our governance structures and within the law change them if we think there are better ways to do things. And such questions as may be asked during those reviews is whether the current ward boundaries are appropriate. In the last review that we did 6 years ago, we actually got rid of the Alexandra. Back then, the Vincent ward was composed of the Alexandra ward and the Ernstful and Heraclea ward, and we went, well, that's a bit silly, really. You know, I was in the Ernstful and Heraclea ward and would drive into the Alexandra ward or even bike in to go to work. So that was obviated, I think, with good benefit. We would be looking at whether there should be Māori wards, how many elected members we have, things that may be looked at. I'm not necessarily saying we will be the role of community boards, but that's something that's commonly viewed. Essentially, it's a chance to ask ourselves and then to ask the community whether the way we've been doing things for the last 6 years is right for the future. The other thing is the number of elected members. That wouldn't affect community boards, but the last time we did one, there was an extra Cromwell councillor put in due to population growth. At this stage, if we continue with our structure as we have it, there will be another Cromwell councillor put in for the due to population growth, and we'll have a council of 12 plus the mayor, which some may sort of say it might be getting a bit unwieldy, but we'll look at all of these things. I emceed the arts showcase at Terrace School, which brought together tamariki performers from around the district, and that was an absolute treat. Sitting there watching young ones engage in their passion and culture with confidence and great ability. And I don't know about you older ones, but when I went to school, there was one guy who could play guitar, and the rest of us were hitting the triangle or blowing on the quarter. There was a guitar and ukulele band got up, and there was about 15 of them just from one school. Just absolutely magnificent. And the kapa haka. One of the schools did a kapa haka presentation, and I had to sit there and remind myself they were primary school children. That was Terrace School. Everybody did extremely well, but for me, it was just like, wow. And Dunstan High School kapa haka came along and opened the whole show and showed what happens when you get the good foundations at primary school. It was wonderful. And then later on that night, I attended the Dunstan High School senior prize giving, and I love the prize givings because you just see the young ones shining, absolutely shining, and hear about their magnificent futures. And it's mostly inspiring, slightly progressive because it's all behind you, but it's all in front of you. So just magnificent. And that lengthy report, Madam Chair, is my report. Happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you. Would you like to move it? I'll move it.
Yeah, that's one question. Well, I read somewhere if you're going to have a Maori or dinner, is it closing that for Thursday, this Thursday, correct?
I don't know. Yeah, no, I don't believe so.
No, talk about Hatsumi Council trying to shove it through and don't only cover no consultation. They see the deadline's Thursday.
That may be for their processes. Yeah. No, we won't be shoving anything through with no consultation.
I would suggest
but no, I don't believe that. our representation review doesn't have to be done till October next year, I think, so.
Formally, we will need to consult, I think, after the LTP consultation, so probably that July, March, and that sort of period.
And done and dusted. Right then, because realistically, the effects of it don't kick in until the October 2025 election. Yeah. To be tomorrow.
So all those in favour? Against, carried.
Thank you.
On that note, I have learned that we might need to move the mayor's report and my report around. It steals everything that I was going to say.
Yeah. I don't know.
So you know what we can.
Copy paste. It's my gift for my wife as well, so.
We need to stop hanging out together, so going to the same things. That Tim did go to, and one exceptional one was the opening of the Galileo sculpture at Clyde,
Oh, yeah.
which was just magnificent. It was really cool. I couldn't believe the turnout. I was there too. It was an outstanding turnout. I thought there'd be sort of 30, 40 people there. There were hundreds of people there. It was very well done. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Money well spent.
It was money well spent. And kudos to the Clyde Historical Society, who they raised a substantial amount of money to create something that is actually spectacular.
Yeah.
I was impressed by just how big it turned out to be. I didn't realise it was going to be that visible the whole way down the board. It was great, really great. And then I went also along with Jaden and his family. Took my kids to the Kahui Arco opening of the children's art exhibition at Central Stories, which is really cool. I went along again the following week because they needed parent helpers to walk the class down to have a look. And it's just awesome seeing the kids see their own artwork on display like that. And there were some really clever greenhouses, sculptures, paintings, all sorts of different things there. And it's actually well worth going along and having a look too. That's cool to see. I went to Wellington for a few days with Tim and attended the Future by Local Government second hilly, which was really good, coming out with some recommendations that will come to members to be voted on to form Local Government New Zealand's position on any reform to be presented to the next central government when we finally have one established. Just hopefully too far away. I attended the rural provincial meeting the next day, and as the mayor raised, everybody's in the same boat, really rates rises and what those are going to look like. We're an outlier by any stretch of the imagination. This is tough times coming for everyone, and we're going to have to be conscious about what we spend, but recognise that some of this money is just money that needs to be spent on just the bare basics, just keeping up with legislation and requirements, and as Tim and Tracy have highlighted, the stuff that we don't see that's under the ground. That's still really important when you're doing your TAP. And on that, I'd like to highlight, recognising that it's a tough time, I'm part of a group that are organising a toy swap for next week. So if you've got any old toys kicking around with your grandchildren or your children are outgrowing, they can be dropped off next week at the Baptist Church between 9 AM and 1 PM on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. If you can't get there, maybe send me a message and I can pick them up from your house. And then on Friday, anyone and everyone can come along to the Baptist Church and pick up some free toys. So if they're not for you or your kids, then you might be getting some for your grandkids, or actually somebody highlighted that the Alex Pool could do with some new toys in the play area. So I'll see you there, David.
First,
Free toys.
well done.
And there's my report. Happy to move that be received. Jane can second that for me. All those in favour? Against? And we move to the members' reports. With who up to Tuesday.
Right, everyone attended a meeting of Alexandra District Museum Incorporated, or Central Stories. I attended the unveiling with Tango of the Kawiria statue on Clyde Hill. Fantastic. Attended two Keep Alexandra Clyde Beautiful meetings. Attended a REAP board meeting. Attended the AGM of the Last Chance Irrigation Company. As usual, there's no happy news about the costs of irrigation. It only goes in one direction for the irrigators. Attended the AGM of the John Dale Park Charitable Trust. I ran a Creative Writers Circle meeting. Attended a cover to cover event arranged by Central Otago District Arts Trust. Was and a writer down to talk about her work. Attended the opening of an art display, Edie at the Gallery, featuring the work of the late Anne-Marie Hope Cross. She was an internationally recognised artist who died well before her time. I participated in the planting and maintenance roster for the Lower Manawatu Recreation Reserve. Through the dry months, that reserve requires maintenance, and if we're going to have an El Nino, then it's going to require extra work. So that consists of watering and a little bit of weeding and just tidying up. Attended the Central Otago District Arts Trust meeting. Participated in the Central Otago Regional Orchestra performances in Wanaka and Cromwell. There was no performance here in Alexandra because the state has no suitable venue for our orchestra. The orchestra is quite big, so it requires a big facility with suitable lighting. Ran a UCA planning meeting for 2024, and just last night attended the inaugural professorial lecture for Professor Gary Nixon, and that was really was oversubscribed. It was in the Ernst Hall, every seat taken, and live streamed to people who couldn't get in. We had everyone, including the Vice Chancellor from Otago University, attending, so it was a great turnout and great recognition of the importance of rural medicine for our community, and the fact that we, Dunstan Hospital has a presence in this area. So a great event, and that's my report. Thank you.
Hearings panels still busy. And we're still progressing the work on Plan Change 19, but the highlight of my week was because His Worship was unavailable, I got to do the commentary on the parent-centred duck race.
Oh, you did too. Isn't it fun?
It was an immense fun. Trying to actually keep up a lucid commentary on 575 plastic ducks going down the Manawatu River.
I was lying. You just say, I can see number 91's there.
Yeah, no, I took some very good advice from exactly that. And the ones that escaped, but this time they didn't get all the way to Roxburgh. They had some members of the local kayak club went down and chased the 30-mile, which breached the barrier. But what a fundraising idea. They raised something like, well, in excess of 10K, you know, so it was great. So you're not doing it next year, mate. I think I'm proving you got that one.
Oh, right. Yeah. And we'll do a tandem. Two old ducks.
Yes, thank you. Gave the museum manager a hand with hoisting up the banners for the upcoming Christmas markets that the museums, the Super Stories are hosting. And again, just to reiterate the comments that Madam Chair made, the exhibition space down there is, and the work that Paula and her crew are doing is exceptional. They've really raised the profile of that museum 100%, and it is a busy and welcoming environment. And some of their forward thinking, some of their plans, which we'll hear about in the not too distant future, is really exciting. So it's my report.
Yes, no? Yes.
So I haven't been up to too much because I haven't been here. So, and then I work, and I should have gone first because Roger and I had a couple of things stolen from Roger as well. But like Roger, I went and visited the gallery in Clyde and had a look at Anne-Marie's work, which was exceptional. So I would encourage people to go and have a look at that. Like Martin, I went in and saw Paula at Central Stories. in relation to the exhibition space and things. So excited that she has made some changes to the layout in there, which is really welcoming. She also she was super excited, and I 100% share her excitement that everything that's in there now for sale and is all from Central Otago. So that is a real coup. There is some spectacular Christmas gifts and things, and I may have cleaned out already a lot of the Christmas decoration type thing, but they were restocked. But I did say, I actually had to qualify that it was okay for me to buy much Christmas things like
As long
that.
as you're not putting up the Christmas decorations in November, you're okay.
Well, I'm not going to confirm or deny that.
Yes, right. Doesn't
So-
feel Christmas.
But like Martin said, excuse me, Paula is doing an exceptional job in there. I wasn't lucky enough to get a seat, Roger, last night, for Professor Gary Nixon's inaugural address, and again, I support what you said in relation to the work he's doing in that rural urban, and actually some of that definition in work it's exceptional and a real coup for Central Otago and for Dunstan Hospital. So just a huge acknowledgement to Professor Gary there. I was at the Christchurch Agricultural Pastoral Show this previous week, and what I wanted to do is just give the community a reminder in this platform that we have got the Agricultural Pastoral Society shows all around our district coming up, and and also community events like we heard earlier with the cricket. Just this summer, it would be really great if people took the time and attended these things, because they are exceptional community events, and if they're not supported, it makes it very hard to continue on, big or small. So it's really great if people can attend these things. That's my thing. Yeah.
I also went to the unveiling of the statue on Clydall and got educated as to our nation's dog. She was a story behind, I thought was pretty special too, as well as the process. Had a business breakfast a month ago, no pressure on you, Peter, but the speaker there was pretty enthralling. She's looking at an Abbeyfield retirement village model, very small, supported living kind of concept around something that's becoming very common. So that was pretty interesting, and also chaired the Leading Rock Village Annual General Meeting about 3 weeks ago. Might be the last.
It's very,
When you go last, it really feels like a broken record.
go the other way around next time.
So I attended the sculpture unveiling in Clyde as well. It was an amazing sculpture up there, if you had a chance to look at. The Kahuiako opening, and the talent of the kids from the primary schools, and I've heard from some of the schools that got funding to get and to show the kids. They're very thankful for the BCB's support with that. Visited Running for Disabled a few weeks back just to see how things are going on the new site, and all the comments were really positive. So it seems to be going really well for them. I attended the AGM of Community Works Aotearoa last Friday, which was quite interesting. Also spoken with a number of people in the community, an ageing population that have got walkers and wheelchairs, and there seems to be a lot of struggles with some of the streets and the footpaths, being able to get around them. So it's been ongoing for a few months now, more and more seem to be coming up with that same problem. And the other one is parents with children at Jackson High School and the Terrace School around having some sort of crossing up on Enterprise Street. Because I don't know if it's just people are getting worse at driving, but there's more and more moments where there's those close calls with kids crossing roads and cars just going way too fast. And I get someone talked about dropping the speed limit, but that's not stopping them. So if anyone's got any ideas on that one, that'd be great to hear about. And lastly, just looking forward to heading out to Waitangi in 2 weeks now for Taylor. So looking forward to reporting back to the board on that in January. That's new.
Little video. Very exciting. Awesome. Thank you very much. It's been seeing this year, Jason, second that, and those in favour, it's carried. Wonderful. Lots of cool things happening in our communities, which is always exciting. Move to the November 2023 governance report, the status reports. A number of those have been closed. Does anybody have any questions, Joanne?
I'll move that we open through.
Thank you. Councillor will second that. All those in favour?
Right.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Date of the next meeting. Yeah. It's not on the last page.
23rd of January.
23rd of January, 2024. So, hopefully we'll have one for Christmas. I suspect us in all beforehand. While we're all buying Christmas decorations from
Our exceptional.
Don't put them up until December.
That's already up.
And there's lunch.
Yeah. But there will be a Sunday lunch. Sarah. Now move to a resolution to exclude the public for the reasons given on page 63. So that we can confirm those confidential minutes.
Second up.
Thank you very much, David. Are those in favour? Against? Sarah.